Good morning, everyone. This is Micah, game dev Micah on the platforms. Want to just do a little walkthrough today and see how the project's doing. We've made some corrections or changes and things we'll talk about. We're currently playing it on the main game dev PC, which is a 4090. So, we have all the horsepower. What we're looking at here is just going to make a quick list of what we're working on next. I already have it, of course, but we'll go through it and write it again. There's some questions about why the physics looks so bad. So let's just talk about that first. So you can see here there's a blending of in-world physics. So like if I hit these yellow and black poles or a tree or the power pole or any of these debris objects up here, they're just a mesh that's being told to simulate physics. They don't know exactly the right weights. So we're going to work on going through and figuring out how to do that based on materials and the bounds of those meshes to adjust for size and stuff. And that will help with making the light pole perhaps lay down a little bit faster than smaller things. And we'll adjust so maybe wood has a heavier weight. But also what you're seeing is I'm not actually colliding with the bus yet. How we have this set up is that we have a volume around the bus which grabs actors that are not simulating physics and tells them to start simulating physics. And then we're also, due to some feedback, giving some push to push away, just randomly, anything that touches us. And that's different versus how the cars are not getting any of that push right now. And so you can just sort of see that when we hit a car, it piles up next to us. And so since this is a game about driving fast, I wanted to get the debris out away from you when you hit it, and also let you have a better chance of seeing the debris versus it just piling up in front of your bus, like cars do. Actually, it's kind of hard to even see one car if that blue car, it's in front of us, but we might not really know. The same thing if we get one of these columns here and maybe I didn't push it away. And what's happening with this column is it's starting to simulate physics, but the framework above it is sitting there not simulating physics, so it's actually being caught in place. And if we get close to it here, you can see how it's moving just a little bit, and there's that crack. And it goes through the bus because the bus doesn't have a collision on it right now. We're just using that capsule around it for world objects to wake up objects and throw them away from us. Let's go ahead and we'll do an explosion underneath the overpass here. And what that will do is wake up all the structural pieces, and then everything will move out of the way. Let's see here. There you go. And I think that looks pretty good. Simulating physics-wise, how all the pieces, took a hit from the impact and then fell back down, hit each other, landing on each other. They're big chunks still, and that's one of the things that's definitely on the list, is what we're going to do to make them look more like they've been hit, and then also like kind of this right blocking by the camera. There's these barriers down by the bus, and they have chunks taken out of them. What I'm going to do is do a decal that will take chunks out using world position offset on the shader from the decal attached to the owning actor to actually look like chunks are taken out of the concrete or every mesh that we deal with. We're also going to go ahead and break up meshes into smaller meshes. Do we have any like that right now? Sorta. In the buildings, the floor, we get close to this building right here, you can see that there's a gray floor on every level. That's where we put in the kit bash. And that, once it gets woken up in a physics simulation, breaks up into smaller pieces with rebar sticking out of them. So we'll drive closer here. You can see it disappears. And if we go in the building, you can see there's chunks of rebar on the floor, and that they're kind of breaking up around it into smaller chunks that are actually just Niagara GPU pieces that are simulating. So the main purpose here is just to give some density to these buildings, which is what we're getting, so that we can add a score system to each part of the building that's destroyed. So this first game is a lot like, somebody called it out, Burnout. It's game Burnout, where you have a play mode where you see how much destruction you can do before your car is destroyed. That's about the same thing here. You'll be driving around this bus and you're trying to stay above a certain amount of like 50 miles an hour. And during that time frame, we're going to record how much damage has been done or is being done by each piece that we're waking up and breaking up. And then that's going to make a score at some point. But mainly, and the main goal is to drive around the city for 5 to 10 minutes at 50 miles an hour as traffic increases in density until the defusing mechanism is ready for you on the bridge. Then you drive back to the bridge that you started on, and it's the end. So the basic goal is to see if you can deal with traffic and driving around 50 miles an hour in the bus without blowing up. Without dropping below 50. There's some graphical issues here, like that, where it's just part of my procedural generation script, which, if you've been following along, we procedurally generate all the buildings, in the interiors and exteriors. The exteriors have been done already by Unreal, but we can regenerate them if we wanted to and make new cities. Also, inside every building, I've actually made my own script in Blueprints in Unreal that goes through and fills it with levels, puts in a staircase, column, stuff like that, and makes it so that every building in here has a full interior that you can walk into and go from the bottom floor all the way up to the roof. Let's see here. So what we've done to optimize that is that in this game, since you're driving around as a bus, you're not going to really get above the 10th floor. So what I've done is I've ran that simulation to generate the interiors, saved it out to a save file, and then every building has a save file of the first 10 floors that I asynchronously load at runtime and fill up the buildings with. That's my own type of level partition or world partition that I'm doing, and I'm also able to then, basically take each building if I wanted to, and the surrounding areas, and use the exact same process to asynchronously save destruction that has happened. If we did get to the point where we wanted to, say, reload levels and looked at like one level, or maybe there could be a reason. If, say, you wanted to just work on destroying every single building in the city, that's going to take, there's 611 buildings, let's just say it takes 5 minutes a building, it's going to take you a long time if you wanted to see what the city looked like completely leveled and get that picture for the internet, which is cool. I'll probably end up doing that. Maybe. That's a lot of buildings. Alright, so what's on my punch list right now? Ragdolling. Oh, and also we got controller support. That's cool. So I'm going to drive around with this a little bit. Just the Matrix project itself had controller support already plugged in. And so traction on the tires actually wiggles the Xbox controller a little bit too. So that was it's so nice to sort of step back and drive with analog stick for driving specifically. And for gas and clutch. So one thing I don't really like about the keyboard mouse is that I'm going to try and figure out a way to give you an analog steering, maybe using the mouse with to drive the bus rather than keys or in addition to keys. But this controller for driving seems very superior to a keyboard. So as we drive around here and wreck stuff, you can see we've added some decals to where things land. You can kind of see them populating in there, where it's just right now a 2D decal. It's not using any world precision offset or normals, or it is just using normals to make these destroyed road effects. These decals are spawned in, they get a timer on them, and then they're deleted. What we need to do is go ahead and make a pooling system of these decals so we can limit the amount of generation and efficiently recall them. But right now we just thought we'd try Unreal System and throw out some decals, bought some off the market, and that looks pretty cool, especially for a racing game where hopefully you're only looking at this as you're driving by at 50 miles an hour. But things change. I'll also be using all of this for the future TEARUP games, such as Godzilla TEARUP, which we're going to call TEARUP God, and also the superhero game, like Superhero TEARUP or something like that. when we run around here, that pole, there's a couple things wrong with this pole. The intersections spawn their own logic to have some lights to control traffic. We got to figure out how to intercept that and not and wake up those lights and not the lights that were here as placeholders. So that's something we have to fix. So I'll put that in here as intersection lights. Also, when we drive up to pedestrians, the only thing the pedestrians are supposed to do is, if you're a player using the current assets, is move out of the way if you're another player, so like walk around your capsule. Or if you're a car, I think they just stop. So what we're going to do is ragdoll them so that they'll tumble around. I put another, oh, I could just, I'm not going to go digging for videos on the video. Ragdoll these people when we hit them, rather than have them disappear. So right now when we hit them, you see they just disappear and turn blue. So we're going to use that trigger point, spawn a ragdoll, match it to that metahuman, and then let physics simulate on it. So, and also add it to the score. So you'll be able to go around and knock all these people over, and just like the silly physics we're getting by throwing all these objects away from us using the overlap, we'll also throw the humans away as well. I'm not quite sure if we're going to kill humans or the NPCs, or if we're going to just let them stand up. That's what I'm leaning towards for a better rating system, is to let them stand up. So you might get the points for knocking somebody down, but they ultimately get up and run away, and you can't get points from the same person or something like that. Here you're seeing we're just driving through the default destructible cars from Unreal's Matrix City. With all the upgrades they've been doing in the engine, especially up to 5.3 here, these are running pretty cool on not just the 4090 here, but I'm testing all this on a 980 Ti and a 1080 Ti from MSI and Zotac, and it's running pretty good at 1080p on those cards as well. So I will be doing optimization focused on those two cards. Let me get over this here. Let's see, what else do we have? So we have the intersection lights, ragdolling for NPCs, cars, fires, and explosions. Okay, so yeah, like this car right in front of us or behind us, you're seeing that one there turn purple or blue and disintegrate like the people do when we overlap them. So we're going to do the same thing with the cars, which is, instead of ragdolling them, we'll take a destroyed car like the one basically in front of us and burst it into flames. And then that will break down into 5 to 10 parts, much like the buses do. So if you take a bus here, and go up to where it was, you can see, oh good, it's still in one piece, oddly enough. Oh. So this bus is a bunch of actors. When I hit it, you can see it breaks apart. Oh man, that was nice. You can just sort of see all the little bits. We're going to do that exact same thing, which is make the doors fly off of it, the wheels fly off of it, then take the centered chassis itself, make the roof fly off of it, cut it probably at the firewall and the trunk, and then down the center so it can just sort of break up into pieces and then disintegrate. And we'll leave some chunks of cars left there, but that's what we're going to do, is let you do some chain explosions. So when cars get wrecked, and cars don't really blow up until gasoline leaks. Gasoline would have to leak, evaporate, fill the car with fumes, and then a spark would ignite those fumes, and you could get a decent little explosion, but nothing pressurized. So a lot of what you see in video games isn't physics realistic, but we're aiming for fun here. So like that there, I would have to say is the gas being aerated from another type of incendiary device or another bomb on it. What we're going to do in the game, we have this little add-on on top of the bus. Does it say anything about it? What those are, in my experience on city buses, is that's where the alternative fuel stuff hangs out. And we got some fans that oddly enough are not spinning on top of the bus. Maybe that's the story. Hey, the fans have failed. You're overloaded on your hydrogen or whatever, or propane or whatever the fuel is. You need to burn off the fuel, drive around at 50, and we'll keep it below pressure for 5-10 minutes, wherever we set it. So we'll say 10 minutes, and then you'll be safe. Well, maybe that's it. That way, because we don't have the IP to speed, so we're just, hey, there you go. You heard it here live. Boom. You're overfilled on propane. The fans aren't spinning. You got to burn off that fuel before you can slow down. That's the game. There'll be an arcade mode where you can practice being able to drive around at 50, and then by setting the speed that you want to blow up at, which you could set to 0, then you can just arcade mode drive around like I'm doing right now. Additionally, I like the idea of being able to shoot exploding buses, so we'll probably have a cheat mode or a cheat in the arcade mode that you can enable to do something like all these developer things I'm doing to basically do QA. How this is QA is that, you know, you're driving a bus around this city, you could blow it up anywhere. I gotta kind of test what those explosions looks like anywhere. And so instead of blowing my one bus up and driving back over there, I shoot other buses. We're driving through a building right now. What we're gonna do ultimately to make this better is adjust how the camera sees us going through the building and break every mesh that we touch into smaller pieces. And what those smaller pieces will look like, if you look at my debris that's happening right now, these are GPU simulated chunks that are coming off, things that are moving and bouncing on the ground and then disappearing. What we're going to do is use that for all of the portions of the mesh that are different from a group of shared destructible pieces that I'm using to basically use the same bricks for all the brick buildings, use the same concrete or whatever that fancy stone is, granite, whatever, for the buildings. So we basically reduce all the buildings and meshes we have here into a common collection of destroyed pieces. And then those pieces will be unified into larger piles of garbage, which are just meshes as well for a garbage heap. And then those garbage heaps can be broken up into small meshes again, like kind of like what we're looking at here, where these all these signs are. This could be one static mesh that when we hit it, it spawns a template of all the cones and the other pieces there for us to wake up. That's how I kind of do things. Although I don't use the one mesh, I just put all the things there. So we skip that whole bunch of static meshes. And so we end up building the whole area just with repeated parts. Alright, what else do I have to look at? We need a UI, we need a score. Breakup might get pushed to the next games. Breakup is where we do very cleanly break up these building meshes from the big chunks that they are right now into smaller pieces. What I might do in the short term here, for like the umbrellas, is just spawn GPU particles there, match the color or texture or whatever, and let those things like burn up or whatever or fall apart. Also for the light poles and stop sign, things like that that are commonly broken up on the street, we're going to go ahead and make a common template for them that will break them in half, break the lights off of them, and basically just make them smaller, simpler pieces, rather than have these large poles that are just going bing, bing, and like flying around like that. Maybe make them heavier too, but basically we're going to break all the parts off rather than let them be those big pieces. Although I'd like to also maybe bend some of the beams and let us spawn some of those in there so it looks like it got hit by something rather than just break it all up. And that will give some of that destructible crunchiness like you see in the cars. The overlapping, we'll fix that. It's an optimization. Cars and pieces of meshes overlapping each other versus hitting each other and doing the deformation. You know, all the way 2 blocks from here, those cars can't do deformation. They don't even exist. They're instant static meshes that are just being moved. 1 block from here, they might actually start to become actors, but they don't have deformable skeletal meshes on them yet. And then when you get right up next to you, say in this intersection, this is where we're spawning cars in plate replacement that have destructible meshes on them. Same thing with the buildings. 3 blocks from here, those buildings don't have interiors. 1 block from here, they have interiors with collisions. And then when we drive 3 blocks away, the collisions can be taken away. And the interiors can be taken away as well and left the exterior husk. And then when we get right up next to it, through the intersection here, now we've replaced the instant stack meshes. You can see the windows losing their interior 3D things, 3D rooms, because we're taking the instant stack mesh, per instant stack mesh random away that's being fed into the shader, and so we're getting the default room value. So these are not yet simulating physics, they're just actors there. Then when we get close enough to touch them, this one here we've touched with the collision from the bus, it will start to simulate physics. And then it won't stop simulating physics until we drive a little bit away. So it's all about level of detail, not just in, well, it's all about level of detail and everything, all the way down to physics, collisions, and ultimately how you check it all has to be dithered over a distance as well. Well, thanks for hanging out and seeing all the things I got to be doing here. I just wanted to give a little bit more of a slow, detailed drive around the city. Talk about why some things like this column, you can drive through it. It's because I've turned off collision on the bus, and I'm just pushing stuff away. What we're going to do is maybe take that overlap and slow the bus down, and then make sure we push that thing away to fix it. And then also with the pushing away, we're going to try and make it look more like how it does with the cars here, rather than have it be where they just where the things are just sort of thrown away and spin sort of haphazardly. We'll be working on those to increase the physics feel. Explosions, fires. Oh, and we're leveling buildings next. So, like I was mentioning, we have an elevator shaft in these buildings, or a stairway. Once you go through a building, I guess I could just drive through a building. That's probably a better idea. Once you drive through a building, you could miss the elevator shaft, which is good. That would mean that, you know, the building takes some damage, but it doesn't get destroyed. Or you hit the elevator shaft. Let's see here. Okay. Here we go. So there's the elevator shaft in the middle of the building. If you hit this elevator shaft, I'm going to go ahead and trigger like a 30-second collapse on the building, start waking everything up, falling it, and then we're going to drop the whole building basically straight down. And that goes into the score, which is depending on how big the building is and all that stuff. It'll count towards your damage. So yeah, and if you're inside it, we'll go ahead and destroy you. I think that's fair. So yeah, that's how we'll trigger leveling buildings. In future games, it will be more complex. Let's see. Yep, cool. And thanks for all the views. Thanks for all the comments. I want this to be really good, but also I wanted to get out. I would like to get it out so you can play it. So that's the delicate dance we're playing. It's not yet to the point where I can let you play it because there's a bunch of issues. But I am going to try to get it out there as soon as possible so that people can find the issues for me and watch us all correct them together. But hopefully I want to get something out that's pretty solid for that very first release. All right, have a great day. Please like, subscribe, and I will look for your comments. Ciao.